Developing countries, the sugar-coated way of referring to poverty-stricken lands. Just as we look to powerful authority figures in our society for guidance, what are we to do when developing countries seek out aid from us, more advanced countries? Even when assistance has not been sought out, are we still to fulfill the role of an older brother and forcibly assist? Would this be morally right? The main issue with forcible assistance lies in unclear motives. How is one to define the underlying intention under such acts of uncertain guidance? Just as modern-day China is using its vast exports to essentially invade or take over smaller nations, the current economic state of a country does not determine whether or not advice is to be taken, nor does it highlight their motives. However, with that same idea, America's relationship with Panama left a rather unexpectedly positive impact. The guidance of a larger country is not to be taken lightly. Simply put, sometimes this works, other times it doesn't. Thus, a healthy level of skepticism is key. Also, a term important to this topic is known as globalization, which is more often than not seen through a more positive manner. Dictionary.com defines this term as the process by which businesses or other organizations develop international influence or start operating on an international scale. Viewing this concept through the majority's point of view, it seems as if both parties benefit. Ideally, globalization boosts the developing country's economy and provides more jobs while also supplying cheap labor for a larger corporate company. It also allows consumers to gain access to the entire global market. However, what goes neglected is the effect this has on developing countries. Taking a deeper look into this phenomenon, we find that the idea of globalization takes root in capitalism, where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. This is important to note as the majority of developed countries make big decisions that ultimately impact and influence smaller countries. Additionally, oftentimes lacking in manufacturing skills, developing countries end up prioritizing raw materials over furnished goods. Under globalization and its nature in increasing competition, developing countries may either prosper or die. To put this concept into more modern terms, take the rather current and pressing issue of China. The U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson says Beijing encourages dependency using opaque contracts, predatory loan practices, and corrupt deals that mire nations in debt and undercut their sovereignty, denying them their long-term sustaining growth. In other words, China uses the debt of other countries to their advantage. By offering aid in exchange for high royalties and by increasing their debt exponentially, bigger countries put smaller countries in a position where they have no choice but to give control of their ports. Countries such as Mongolia, Sri Lanka, and Laos, just to name a few, have already suffered incredible losses. In just 2 years, Pakistan's average GDP has been shown to have climbed from 13% to 49%. GDP debt. Just like a parasite using debt, China aims for complete control of international trades. Although the incident with China is undeniably discouraging, this is not to say that all acts of foreign aid are necessarily bad. Relationships between countries such as America and Panama support the idea of a beneficial economic assistance. Contrary to popular assumption, although America had previously invaded Panama in an effort to end socialism, and to this day, friendly relations have remained. Similar to this, Algeria has also benefited heavily from foreign aid. Algeria, being once corrupted and plagued with terrorism, is now considered to be one of the most developed countries in Africa. The argument as to whether forcible assistance is morally correct or not has a very unsatisfying answer. It simply is purely dependent on the situation. As stated before, the current economic state of a country does not determine whether or not advice is to be taken, nor does it highlight their motives. The decision to take foreign aid should be preceded with much caution and skepticism.